Well, good evening, and thank you for coming to our Meet Melbourne graduate webinar tonight. We're going to cover, as you know, agricultural science and food science this evening. Before I continue, I would just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which the University of Melbourne operates and does its business, the people of the Kulin Nations, and pay tribute to their elders past, present and emerging. This evening's webinar is a panel of 3 people. My name is John T. Hall. I'm the recruitment coordinator here in Vet and Ag Science. So I'm your go-to with any questions about future study. But the academic colleagues I have joining me tonight are Margarete Ayre from Agricultural Science and Kate Howell from Food Science. You can see them both on the line now. So I'll just take you through a few basics about what we offer here in Ag and Food Science, and then I'll hand over to Margaret and Kate to tell you a bit more detail about what they do. And then once we've done that, we'll open up for some questions. So feel free to leave any questions you have in the chat as we go along. We probably won't be able to get to them to the end, but we'll certainly open up for some of those live. So agricultural and food science. We have at graduate level, I would say 3 really key programs in this area. These are the Master of Agricultural Sciences, the Master of Food Science, and the Master of Food and Packaging Innovation. These are our core coursework degrees, and they're available to students from a wide range of academic backgrounds. We also offer honours, which is more for ag students or science students who've gone on to a 4th year in their bachelor's. We also offer graduate research degrees. We won't have time to go into them tonight, but if anyone has questions about those, please feel free to leave them in the chat and we can follow up later. Something else that's quite special about us is that we operate on multiple campuses. Just in the School of Ag and Food, we are here at Parkville at the main campus, which many of you watching may have had some experience of, and also at Dookie, which is our living laboratory up in the Goulburn Valley area. Why would you study Ag and Food Science? The simplest way I could put it is that the world is going to need a lot more food as the population gets bigger. And as this is due to grow by conservatively at least a couple of billion people in the next 30 years, that more or less answers the question for you. So those people are going to need to eat food. The earth is not getting any bigger, which means we have to grow our crops, and then using food science and scientific approach, use those raw materials, crops or animal products in smarter and more efficient ways in order to actually make more with what we already have. So what that really means is good news for agricultural and food science graduates, because population is really only going in one direction. And just to give you an idea of sort of at a top level what you're learning a lot of applied science, so the latest scientific knowledge and technology in food and ag, soft skills, so learning how to communicate your ideas, learning how to work with people in industry, in business, in academia, and also everything does link back to how these products are actually developed to begin with. So I could go into more detail, but we probably want to get on to the details about the course a bit more. But the main thing to remember is that it's you're becoming a scientist. You're not becoming a farmer, as many people have often thought about agriculture. It's really a chance to learn in depth in a highly technical field about the science that underpins how we make food and food products for us all to enjoy. And this just gives you a bit of a snapshot of how things might look. So hopefully some of you here tonight are currently studying a bachelor's degree and maybe thinking about further study. At Melbourne, probably the most popular degrees for our graduate courses would be the agriculture and science bachelor's degrees. However, we do accept students from other backgrounds, particularly into the Master of Ag Science and Master of Food and Packaging. We are really open for business for anyone who's interested, as long as they can demonstrate a high enough level of achievement. In food science, we can go into a bit more detail, but it's we do prefer students who have a science background, so chemistry and biology and things like that. But basically, once you've done a bachelor's degree, you can head into one of these options. And then once you finish, many of our graduates will go sort of straight into the workforce if they're not there already, but some may also continue on to do some research of their own, like a PhD. So again, that's just to give you some idea of what the shape of things might look like. I'll now hand over to Marg Ayre, who's going to talk to us about the Master of Agricultural Sciences and just a bit about what she finds fascinating about being an agricultural scientist as well. So I'll hand over to you now, Marg. Just checking that we can hear you. Is that is your microphone on?
It should be now. Sorry about that. So to start again, yeah, my name's Margarete Ayre. I'm a senior lecturer in VFAS, so the Faculty of Vet and Ag Sciences. I do both teaching and research, and I've been working in the faculty for a bit over 10 years. I describe myself as an applied social scientist, even though my undergraduate training was in a more technical degree, I guess. It was actually not in agriculture, but forest science. However, I did do subjects related to rural sociology in the 4th year of my degree, which is what really sparked my interest in learning about, understanding and helping to intervene in and support social processes in agriculture and natural resource management. So I'm going to just provide a brief introduction to the Masters of Ag Science tonight, and I am going to focus on my particular area of expertise, which is managing change in agriculture and natural resource management, or NRM. And that includes agricultural extension and advisory practice and agricultural innovation. So the Masters of Ag Sciences is also available as a graduate certificate and a graduate diploma, depending on how many units you want to take and what your personal and professional goals for further study are. So it's just important to remember that. The Masters program, so particularly the Masters of Ag Science I'm talking about, is designed to prepare graduates for advanced roles in agriculture and agribusiness, including management and leadership roles. There are 5 specialisations to choose from that reflect the diversity and richness of the agricultural sector. And those specialisations are there. You can see agribusiness, animal production, crop production, food security, and agricultural extension and innovation. Next slide, please. So the Masters of Agricultural Sciences program aims to provide graduates with strong careers outcomes, depending on your particular goals, your interests and expertise. And outcomes are across the following areas: agronomy and soil science, animal nutrition, biotechnology, farm enterprise management, financial services, standards and quality assurance, and natural resource management. And I think what is missing from that list, I've just noticed, is agricultural change management and innovation, which is the area I work on. It's a flexible degree where you aren't locked into a set program of subjects, but can choose electives from other specialisations to complement your particular needs and preferences for higher learning and professional development. Right. So here is an example of a course plan that could be developed for the agricultural extension and innovation specialisation. So this being one of those 5 specialisations that are available. This is actually a relatively new specialisation. It started in 2019, and it reflects growing opportunities and roles for agricultural specialists who support organisations, producers and other stakeholders to adapt to continuous change in climates, markets, and the operating conditions in agriculture. So you can see here from this schematic that there are two core subjects in this specialisation. These are the ones in green, the communicating agricultural sciences and research methods for life sciences. So those are core to the 5 specialisations. And the other subjects in the schematic across this 2-year degree, so the Masters, are a combination of 4 specialisation subjects, so the ones there in orange, and they're specific to this specialisation, and a range of elective subjects, so you can pick and choose from the other specialisations depending on your interests and goals, and the capstone subject, the one there in purple, which is an industry internship, so an opportunity to get some really practical on-ground experience in an area that's specific to your interests and future career goals. So the combination of learning and practical experience that this specialisation offers will equip graduates to work in and develop their capacity in a range of roles, including advisory roles, innovation and change management roles, agribusiness, and marketing and communications roles. So those subjects that we saw there that are specific, I guess, or special to this specialisation are these, well, there are 4 on the previous slide, but there's actually one in addition to that you could swap in and out, and that's human resource management. So this is the whole suite of different subjects, just to give you a taste of what's in this particular specialisation. And so together these subjects provide graduates with advanced learning and practical insights, as well as practical experiences into the nature of change in agriculture and the natural resource management system. They introduce you or allow you to develop different methods and approaches to working with people to improve situations, and importantly, they introduce and give you hands-on experience in strategic tools to plan for and lead innovation, so change processes in agriculture. Thanks, Jonty. So as I mentioned earlier, the Agricultural Extension and Innovation Specialisation, and it is a bit of a wordful, in the Masters program provides graduates with the skills, knowledge and capacities to work in a range of different roles, but also in a range of different organisations across the agricultural and NRM system. And you can just see in this table that there are a range of career destination organisations, if you like, for graduates who are already working in or seeking to enter careers in the agricultural service and innovation system. So these organisations include government bodies, state and federal level environment and agricultural departments, local government, regional bodies such as catchment management organisations. Another sort of category of organisation is the research and development corporations that are the drive the research and development agenda and implementation of strategic action across the various agricultural sectors in Australia. There's also product resellers, so the fertiliser, seed and feed merchants who are really critical to providing advice to farmers around key inputs to farming systems. Also, there's a growing sort of opportunity to work in the independent fee-for-service advisory sector, as over the last couple of decades, government have slowly but systematically withdrawn or changed at least their role in providing extension services and advisory services to farmers. This sector has really started to expand, and there's a lot of opportunity there for farm management consultants, agronomists, specialist advisors, etc. There are also farmer-owned information advice and support organisations, and we work with several of those, one being, for example, the Birchip Cropping Group that some of you might know about, who are a farmer-driven organisation based in the Wimmera Mallee. processing companies, so those across the different sectors, also employ field officers and other people, agricultural specialists that understand change and what it means to engage farmers in change processes. So that's just to give you a bit of a taste of the range of places that you might consider or even end up working in if you're not already working there. So just to finish up, I wanted to highlight that a sort of key example of how our research in the faculty is also inextricably linked to our teaching. So I'm part of a small research group in the faculty called the Rural Innovation Research Group, and we undertook a collaborative project between 2016 and 2019, which researched, developed and tested different approaches to build the capacity of the commercial and private sector to deliver R&D services to producers. So this is in the context of a changing environment in the agricultural extension and knowledge system, as we would call it in Australia, where the private sector is actually taking on a much bigger role and is facing diverse challenges in terms particularly of professional development, because historically agricultural extensionists were trained in government. So this was quite a large collaboration with 6 RDCs led by Dairy Australia, 3 different government bodies, and it resulted in new knowledge on how to support and enhance the contribution of private extension providers in increasing productivity and profitability in Australian agriculture. And we developed some particular professional development training modules as part of this project based on a survey of advisors. And in fact, it was the first national survey in Australia of advisors and their learning needs. And so we tailored these professional development modules to what was identified in this survey. And in fact, some of them, the case studies and materials have been inputted to the Ag Extension and Innovation subjects that I talked about before. So just finally, this is a nice photo of the Dookie campus in the Goulburn Valley that Jonty mentioned before. I just wanted to note that there are fantastic opportunities for master's students to study and conduct research at the campus, which is a really valued resource for collaborative and applied research. So thanks very much.
Thanks very much for that, Margaret. Hopefully that's given you all a bit more of an idea of what actually is involved in studying a Masters in Ag Science. We'll now switch gears over to the food science side of things, and I'll hand over to Kate Howell to take you through some key features of the Master of Food Science and a little bit on food packaging as well.
Thanks, Jonty, and hello everybody. I'm Dr. Kate Howell. I'm a senior lecturer in the School of Agriculture and Food and teach into these programs that we're going to be talking about tonight. I'm a teaching and research academic, so I divide my time between teaching but also research. I'm a microbiologist by training, so quite a technical background, and my research deals with sort of a lot of different areas, but I guess we could all bring them together to say, you know, how microorganisms, yeasts and bacteria in particular, interact in complex environments. So we're really interested in finding out how these bugs, if you like, these microbes are distributed across an ecosystem, how they can help transform food into something that's a little bit more nutritious and delicious, and understanding what the molecular mechanisms are that they do that by, and how that contributes to the flavour of food. So I've been at the university now for a little over 10 years, and in that time doing a lot of different roles, but is certainly moving into these sorts of roles, talking about our teaching at a broader scale. So I'll start off tonight talking about the Master of Food Science. This, as the Master of Ag Science that Marg was just talking about, is also available as a graduate certificate and graduate diploma. So that just depends on how many subjects you take. But we offer it as a 200-point program for the full master. So there's a variety of difference. I think there's a little difference, I guess, to the streams that Marg was talking about in the Master of Agricultural Science, and that we don't really have streams in the Master of Food Science. It's quite a program where there's not that many electives that you can choose from, but we introduce that feeling of, I guess, independence and following your passion in the research projects, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. What we do want is our graduates to have an in-depth knowledge of how agricultural produce is delivered as safe, nutritious and palatable foods into our local and international markets as well. There's a really nice picture there of a former student, Natalie, who really enjoyed, I think in particular, the cohort experience. By doing all of these subjects together, the students really do form a nice cohort experience, and it can be quite an international experience as well, with students coming from Australia and also from across the Asia Pacific region. And I know from my own graduates who've gotten in touch later that that's been a really important networking thing for later on. They go traveling, or people come back to Australia or whatever, and there's always friends to drop in and see. Next slide, please, Jonty. So the projects I said I'd talk a little bit more about are a really important part of this project, because that's really where you get to take an idea and investigate it in a little bit more detail. Now, that's taken as either as a minor or a major project. Minor project has got a different point value to the major project, and can be taken in a variety of different formats over a semester or 2 semesters. There is an option to complete an internship as well, which is a really important part of the process. This is where you'll be able to go out into industry and work, and often students actually combine those 2 aspects of the internship. Might be doing a small research project as part of what the business is trying to do, like trying to change a different process, for example, or it could be a different internship altogether. But that is a really valuable experience, and I think the research shows that jobs really flow quite quickly after that internship experience has been concluded. We also have quite a strong pathway into graduate research options, including PhD study. So people generally don't choose a Master of Philosophy, which is 2 years, but tend to go into a PhD. But as Jonty said, if you're really interested in that, we can follow up with some more information afterwards. The career outcomes could be in things such as food production, small, medium and large scale food businesses. This is really important in Australia, in Victoria locally as well as internationally, and into the Asia Pacific region as well. Food safety and regulation is really important. Can be into health promotion, product development, nutritional assessment, substantiating health claims, for example, packaging and sort of the legalities that go around with that too, as well as development of new food products and research which would support that as well. And I really like this picture as a slide showing the lovely tableau of delicious food, and it's about a meal time, at least where I am. Hope it's not making you too hungry. A smaller master that we have, but quite a specialised one, is the Master of Food and Packaging Innovation. Now, this is a really specialised degree, and it's the only offering in Australia that covers the same content. The skills and knowledge are very specific to the packaging industry, and so there's some really exciting opportunities to take advantage of in there. It's quite an interdisciplinary scheme. There's subjects offered in entrepreneurship, product development, food marketing, preservation, as well as research and development, which are common across the courses. And that's offered as a 200-point program as well, but with different modes of delivery to fit around people who are working in the industry and maybe doing this on the side as well. Next slide, please, Jonty. So this course was built in really close collaboration with industry, and so the links there are even stronger than the rest of our programs. We have a lot of guest speakers which come into this master, and they take speaking on various topics, and it's a really good way to hear directly from people who are involved in the day-to-day business of delivering sort of new and emerging sorts of foods. There's elective subjects that can be taken, meat products is, of course, an important area, and is a strong area of research in our school as well. So that's a well-supported subject. Dairy, particularly in Victoria, is a very important industry, and as a strong export market for Australia, and in particular Victoria. And there's also other aspects of communication and value chain analysis that people can focus on or delve more closely into if that's what they're interested in. A key part of this program is an industry internship subject, and that's done in a very curated way, which is quite different to the other internship subjects, and is done with leading food packaging companies like Mondelez, for example, and that's a global company, but with a presence in Melbourne. So we have a sample course plan for you to have a look at. Now, keep in mind that this is just a sample course plan, and there is flexibility with there. We do have a mid-year intake, and that would look a little bit different. You'd be going to semester 2, and those offerings, our subjects are in one semester or the other, and you would follow that through for the 2 years. You can see our core subjects, and we encourage those core subjects to be taken in the first 12 months of study, because that lays the foundation for the rest of the course. So you'll see that there's the food processing subject, food safety and quality, plant food product, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about in a moment, sensory evaluation, as well as sort of really fundamental subjects such as chemistry, microbiology, meat and meat products, and research philosophies and methods subject in the life sciences. There's other discipline elective subjects that can be taken that complement this study depending on an area of interest, including things like the politics of food. The history of that is really interesting, and looking at sustainability and how that can be assured across the food chain. And you can see here that this sample course plan has quite a large research component. It doesn't always have to be that way. It can be smaller, and more electives can be taken across the university. And I know some students have decided to focus on things such as, communication or economics or business style subjects as it suits them. And in that case, the research component would be decreased and other subjects could be included. So there is some flexibility there, but we really do have those core 8 subjects that we think are really important for students to have under their belt before we go into those other subjects. Thanks, Jyoti. Next slide. I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about my subject, and I've been spending a fair bit of time on this subject as we move into the second part of the year. It's a snapshot. I wanted to present a bit of a snapshot of this subject. It's called Plant Food Products, and there's quite a beautiful picture of a cross section of a purple carrot. And this purple carrot is, I guess, emblematic of a few things that we look at in the subject. We look at how the composition of the food is. We look at its chemical composition, its cellular structure, and we look at how that dictates in a way, or can lead to new or different processing and health outcomes. This is a good example of how we take something into the subject that's actually a research area as well, and this understanding how black carrots are digested is a really nice model for looking at these sort of healthy foods and how they're treated by our digestive system. And so we have 2 students. Actually, one of them's just about to finish, who are looking at black carrots and as a model for digestion. They've used an animal model, pigs, and also an in vitro model. And so we look at the cellular structure and how the health-giving purple compounds are released during digestion. This subject's also available as an elective with the other master programs that we've heard about already. Now, this subject has varied modes of delivery. It has a lecture tutorial component, and that is now changing in how that's being delivered. And there's also a practical and field trip component as well. And we've been thinking very hard about how we're going to be delivering that in semester 2 this year. And I'm really pleased to announce that there's going to be some great innovations in the way that we're presenting that for at the new life that we're living in, where we're not able to have big groups of people congregating, and also people who might be distant from the campus. So in this subject, we consider plant foods from harvest, looking at the composition, quality, preservation, and how the food might be produced. Next slide, please, John G. A really nice part of this subject is the unit where we look at cereals, grains, and production of flour. So cereals in Australia is a huge industry. We're one of the world's biggest producers of wheat, a big export market for us, and we consume a lot of it locally as well. Wheat is a really important global commodity, and we consider this across the food chain, but just not the growing of it. The agronomy parts of it are covered in the agricultural science aspects of our offerings. I've put some photos in here of us all wearing silly hats in our practical class, because we do make bread in the class, and we do that to get students to think about how a grain with a specific content, how you might test that, how you might be deciding on what its quality is, and get the students to formulate a food product in the lab. And this is the reason that we're wearing all of these lab coats and hairnets, is because it's a food grade lab. So anything that we make in those labs are able to be consumed, which means that everybody goes home with a nice smelling loaf of bread, which is really, really nice. And we'll be moving into our new facilities in August, September of this year on the Parkville campus as well, but in a newly designed lab, which will be able to support these teaching activities with even nicer equipment. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the research projects that we have that are taken as part of the master project. So I mentioned we had minor or major projects, so basically small or large. They can be done over a full year or in one semester, and they can start in semester 2 to go into semester 1 of the following year. Now we have a really exciting program of research projects that can be chosen from, with a wide range of academics across our school, indeed our faculty. And I read through them each year and I think, wow, I didn't know my colleagues were involved in so many different things, and people collaborate widely to offer these projects as well. They can be field-based, that can be done at Dookie, our agricultural campus. Students can spend some time up there, be involved in a larger trial with a funded research body, as Mark spoke about. Can be laboratory based, and I've included some photos here of a former student and a colleague, Associate Professor Adjalouni, and a student and a current student of mine who's now gone on to do a PhD TAL, and who's working on an instrumental based composition project. It can be projects involved with sensory analysis, for example. We have really nice sensory facilities at Parkville where we can conduct sensory trials, and we do that on a wide range of different food and beverage products, and animal trials as well. We have facilities both at Parkville and at Dookie to allow small, medium, and sometimes even larger animal trials. Next slide, please. Our academics work really closely with industry, and we use that to our students' benefit in a lot of ways, to help leverage some of these internships. So we have a lot of companies that come to the uni who are interested in doing a project, and sometimes we say, oh, that could be a really good way for a student to get involved in a really current topic, if you like. And so that can be a nice way to spark a new project and open up doors for the student at the same time. So these projects are often, these internships can be an ongoing or an emerging collaboration, but can be really in nice and exciting areas. For example, we have other opportunities, so people wanting to develop a new product, wanting to look at how it's produced, what maybe the health benefits are, maybe looking at its quality, We've got a wide range of really amazing analytical techniques that we can use across our campuses, but particularly at Parkville, where we have access to microscopy units and lots of analytical platforms. And so we use all of those tools to be able to deliver for the outcome. And so the internships can be a way to kind of jump over there, or having an industry-sponsored research project which can do a similar thing. Next slide, please, Jonty. So I just wanted to finish off with a discussion of where are they now, because our students go far and wide, and the years pass and I'll get an email out of the blue, and there's some of them are doing some amazing things. So we have students who are now working in sort of management and leadership in food companies, both on a fairly small local scale, but then in medium-sized businesses and also multinationals, which are based in Victoria. So that's a really exciting opportunity that they've taken on. A lot of the food companies might have graduate programs. Not only the food companies, but also government departments have entryways for recently graduated students to be able to gain those first steps off into a real job, if you like, or a job outside of academia. We know that a lot of our students who come from the Asia Pacific go home to some really high-powered jobs as well, which is can be a great opportunity later on when they come back and talk about what they're doing for our current students. But we know that there's lots of people working in food authorities in different countries across the region. The students go on to do PhDs as well, and so I've been lucky enough to work with some former students who've gone on to do PhD. One of them's a joint PhD between University of Copenhagen and Melbourne, and she's currently in Copenhagen, which I feel very jealous about because they're going into summer. We have students going to CSIRO, for example, on collaborative or independent projects, and also those who stay at home and go on to graduate pathways as well. And we know that some of our graduates end up in academia too. And the picture there actually shows one of my now colleagues who was a former Master of Food Science student, and he's gone on to do a PhD and now has an academic position in the faculty. Dr. Zhang, who's standing on the right in our photograph in our analytical lab at the Parkville campus. Thank you, Jonty. That's it from me, I think.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kate. That was fantastic to hear all about the world of food science. And I can confirm myself that the bread is delicious. I've had it a few times now. So, yeah, students of all stripes actually at Parkville campus can get involved in sensory trials sometimes. So they get to taste lots of different food, as Kate said, which can be a lot of fun. We have a few minutes left, so I just wanted to turn it over to a Q&A session where we can get the panel to comment on some of the questions that have come in. So I've just got a few here, the first one here I might throw to Margarete Ayre. It's the question is this course suitable for someone who's been out of the agriculture sector for a few years and wants to rejoin or wants to come back into agriculture?
Oh, I think the simple answer to that is yes. Yes, definitely. I think, I mean, quite a lot of the students are they come into the course, I guess, with life experience and work experience, having decided that there's something they're particularly interested or passionate about. And I think, you know, that can be a great advantage because it's, you know, it's clear what you're sort of interested in. There's plenty of choice of subjects and pathways, I guess, to channel your energies and interests. So yes, definitely. And there are quite a lot of don't really like the term mature students, but you know, it's not as if everybody's come from an undergraduate degree straight into the masters, so you won't be the only one, that's for sure.
And I'll actually just jump in there and say we do have for Masters of Ag the professional entry threshold that can be used to gain entry. So if anyone is listening who doesn't have a bachelor's degree but has got at least 6 years of relevant experience, they can actually be considered for entry to the masters without a bachelor's degree. But they would need to have that sort of agricultural industry experience.
And if I can just add in there, yeah, there's some of the favourite students of mine to teach. These are people who really know the industry and are looking for something quite directed. So it's a great cohort when there's someone who's got that industry experience. It's in the cohort as well. Everyone learns a lot more.
Yeah, and there's also a range of subjects that we deliver in mixed mode. Of course, now we're in COVID mode. Everything's been online, but for example, the Managing Innovation and Change subject, which is one of the specialisation subjects in the Ag Extension and Innovation specialisation, has always been a mixed mode subject. So a lot of the people doing the online dimension to that course are people that are working in industry who need greater flexibility in terms of when they engage with the course content. So.
Thanks for that. We've got another one here, which is more about what happens after masters, which is PhD studies. So someone says, about PhD program in food science, how would I secure a supervisor and scholarship? Did you want to take a stab at that one, Kate?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because all of the academics are on there. They've got their eyes peeled for the good students and the keen beans who are coming through. And so it's something that we start talking about really early for people who are interested in it. One of the ways to think about it is to, if you do sort of a trial run with a supervisor, you can do a research project with them and see how it works out. It's a good way to explore a working relationship with a supervisor, a good way to explore a topic and to sort of learn about whether a PhD is for you or not. Sometimes I supervise a lot of lab-based projects, and sometimes the day-to-day of the lab isn't what people expected, other people, and I've got to say I was in the latter category, got into the lab and just loved it, and so that sparked my passion for, laboratory-based science. So it really depends. As far as being as securing a scholarship, that's a bit of a different story, but a similar one, depending on, it's all based on marks basically. So excelling whenever you can, frequently and often, is of course the way to go. The PhD scholarships are very competitive, but it's a really exciting path to take if you're interested in research. And I know Mark's probably got a different perspective on here based on her area, non-laboratory based inquiry.
Yeah, I think it all consistent. It is, I guess, important to feel really passionate about whatever research path you take in a PhD process, and that can be challenging, I guess, sorting through all the possibilities. So I guess my advice is to try and contact academics directly at the university if you're interested in exploring a particular area, and website's a good place to start, or contacting key, I guess, people in engagement, staff in the faculty who can put you onto the right person.
Thanks for that. One here, and I can actually answer that
a little
one.
bit from
Yes,
me.
there are. The only. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's a little better
now,
for me.
but yeah.
Maybe ask the question again.
Okay. So the question was, are there any Commonwealth supported places in the Masters? And the answer is yes, thankfully, although there is one exception. We unfortunately don't have Commonwealth supported places in the Food and Packaging Innovation Masters, but both of the other degrees do offer those. I should note with the Master of Ag Science, however, that it's only the 150 and 100 point programs that offer a Commonwealth supported place. Don't let that put you off if you don't have an agricultural background, however, because students who apply without that background can still be made an offer for a graduate certificate in ag, provided they meet the other requirements for grades and so forth. And that completing that on a full fee basis for 6 months can then let them get the Commonwealth supported place for the other 1.5 years of masters. So there is still that option there as well. I suppose, yeah, I mean, all CSPs are somewhat competitive, but thankfully we do have a decent number for our students in doing masters. I think we've hit 7:15, so I should probably bring this to a close. But I just want to thank everyone for coming and tuning in tonight, and I hope you all learned something about agriculture or agricultural and food science. Yeah, I'd like to thank very much Marg and Kate for coming and being part of this panel and sharing their perspectives with everyone. And I'll just leave you with these details here. That's my name, and we're from the Faculty of Agriculture, Veterinary and Agricultural Sciences, specifically the School of Agriculture and Food. You can find all of our courses at the link there at the bottom. Otherwise, if you do have a question that wasn't answered tonight, or you'd like to ask something different altogether, if you go to that link there, you can get in touch about any of our courses by submitting an inquiry at that link. So thanks again to everyone for coming, and I hope you all have a lovely evening.
Thank you. Good night.